Hi there, welcome to Wine Searcher. Today I'm having a look at a classic French white, a Vouvray from a producer called Marc Brédif. This is the 2019 and this is a cuvée that they call Classic to identify it from their sweeter cuvées and a single vineyard that they make. So we're in Vouvray, we're in the Loire Valley, and Vouvray is, it's pretty much at the point where the maritime influence from the Atlantic meets the more continental influence of the central France, and so you get a little bit of cooling influence from the ocean, but you also get the sort of the aridity of the summer there, so you can get some quite good ripeness, but then some humidity at other stages. As a white wine, Vouvray is made entirely from Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc, quite a difficult grape variety to work with in terms of that. Firstly, it's quite a delicate variety. You can't machine harvest it if you want to get fine flavours, because it's a large grape and it'll break if you use a machine harvester on it. And secondly, because it's very difficult to get a whole crop fully ripe. Generally, what you'll find is that you'll pick some of the grapes and they're fully ripe, and others will be still green. As a result, this means that you get some lovely ripe flavours, but that's often combined with good acidity, and so the producers here use this to their advantage. The style of Vouvray can range actually, and it can vary from vintage to vintage as to how much is made, from a sparkling wine through to a still dry wine, getting through to sort of demi-sec, off dry, medium, and right the way up to sweet moelleux and sort of nectared wines. So you can get very sweet wines all through to dry, and sometimes that can be difficult because, I mean, for instance, this has no sweetness indication on its label, so before you buy it, it's hard to tell exactly what you're going to get. As a producer, Marc Brédif, the house was founded in the 1890s, and Marc Brédif was one of the pioneers of the production of sparkling Vouvray. So that was the early 20th century that they started producing that. In 1980, the house was bought out by the Baron de Ladoucette, and the owner of Elder Ladoucette, one of the sort of larger producers of Pouilly Fume. So with other interests in the Loire, they also might have estates in Chablis and in other parts of the Loire, in Sancerre, for instance. They make a little bit of red wine there in Chenin from Cabernet Franc, but the bulk of the production is Vouvray from Chenin. So to look at the wine, you've got first of all, you've got a lovely sort of bright yellow, fairly pale yellow, leaves reasonable legs on the glass. It's a relatively viscous wine. When you smell it, you've got almost three aspects to the nose. You've got sort of a sharp fruit, a sort of a green apple note. You've got a minerality, a sort of a dried stone note, which could be from the use of SO2 to stop fermentation, with leaving a little bit of sweetness in there. And then you've got some lovely ripe sort of peach, pineapple sort of notes, and some slightly more delicate floral top notes as well. But generally the sort of the unripe, the ripe, and the minerality are the three main elements there. Tasting it. The wine, first thing that hits you about it is its sweetness. It's a nice clean sweetness. It's off dry, there's not enough sweetness for it to be described as medium. It's got a fair amount of body, but then after the rich ripe fruit, in cuts the acidity, and the acidity must have a degree of what they call malic acid, which is sharp acid from unripe apples. Have you ever made the mistake of biting into a crab apple? It's that kind of, really quite tooth-sucking acidity, which actually contrasts really nicely with the sweetness. As I say, the wine has a reasonable amount of body, and you've got all those sort of ripe sort of peach and pineapple notes to the fruit, but then they go on to become sort of slightly honeyed, and the wine is just starting I mean, it's 2019, so it's a couple of years old now. It's just starting to show a little bit of the waxy lanolin developed notes from Chenin Blanc as it gets older. And this is a wine at 13% alcohol. The alcohol doesn't show on the nose, on the palate particularly, in terms of weight. It's medium weight with a little bit of roundness, but these are wines that the producer reckons this could last between 5 and 20 years. I wonder how many people will cellar this for 20 years. But it's that combination of really good acidity and some quite nice ripe fruit working together in there that should enable this to live for at least 5 to 10 years, and if you have some patience, possibly longer. The style of the wine, with its lovely acidity and its rich flavours, I think would make it sort of lovely with foods, because it has the ability to accompany richness in the wine, in the food you're eating with it, and also to cut through any sort of sauces and fattiness. And yes, the flavours last quite nicely. And a really interesting and really quite versatile sort of wine to drink in a number of situations, particularly if you like a wine that's slightly off dry. So give Vouvray a go. Cheers.